So free agency started officially. We had gotten some deals before, but now we kicked into the first leg of free agency, which is right before the draft. This is where it gets heated because a lot of teams will start, doing trades just because of the draft, just because they see the potential, and they'll get excited about things even if they don't mean much. And now we saw that a trade happened, and I just want to talk about this trade, what it means, and what implications it has. I am talking obviously about the Kristaps Porzingis trade and Marcus Smart. It basically includes a whole package, which was a three-team trade with the Memphis Grizzlies, Boston, and Washington to move Kristaps and Marcus Smart. First, I just want to say that for the Washington Wizards, they're going full tank mode. I think it would have been good to do this last season, but let's face it, they didn't. So now they're stuck doing it this season. They already traded Bradley Beal, which they had for like 8 to 10 years for his entire career. Kuz declined his player option, and he's looking to sign somewhere that's not the Wizards. Even though I saw that Kyle Kuzma wanted $30 million, and in my opinion that's insane. I do believe that even though yes he is a phenomenal player, he does not deserve that amount of money, or at least even if he does get it, I don't know if he's a winning player because all the stats that he puts up are on bad teams, and it's been that way his entire career. Because when he was on a good team, he wasn't really good enough to put up good stats. So in my opinion, with Kuz, we gotta see where he ends up. But I know that Washington doesn't want him to come back, and he doesn't want to be in Washington. But we'll see how that plays out. And finally, the last piece which looked really important was Kristaps Porzingis. Kristaps this year played at an all-star level. He's played phenomenal basketball, and honestly, in my opinion, he's been one of the best big men in the league, and he's been extremely underrated. Apart from maybe like 5 big men, which I could think about right now, I think he is probably a top 5 center in the league, and he's been phenomenal. He's been playing his role well. He's managed to maintain himself mostly healthy, and he's put up just a good stat line. And since he doesn't think he's a superstar anymore, he's really become much more modest and just learned his role, meanwhile also getting enough touches to produce offense. So let's talk about the trade. First, on the side of the Boston Celtics, they have the most movement. I want to say that this is big for next year's East, right? Because Boston is sending out Marcus Smart, right? They're sending Danilo Gallinari, and Mike Muscala is also getting moved, and obviously the biggest piece is Marcus Smart, which has been a piece for them for 10 years before Tatum, before Brown. And he's getting moved to Memphis, and what they're getting from Memphis is their number 25 pick. And basically this trade is like everyone gives up something and everyone gets what they want. Washington, all that they want is to be bad. They don't want to be good in this year. They don't want this year's draft. And honestly, even though yes, they're going to have some picks, let's face it, it's not that important to them. They want to tank for next season. And right now what they're trying to do is just ship out their players for assets, and so that they could be bad enough to lose games, right? So they could have a secured top 10 pick. I'm pretty sure Washington has a lot of their first round picks, and they just earned 2 new ones in the Bradley Beal trade. Not new ones, but they earned more picks on the Bradley Beal trade. So So with Washington, they're doing exactly what they want to do, even though they did get a low return because they are giving out this all-star caliber player. It does make sense for the Wizards to just want to ship these guys out. They're the only team which I've seen which doesn't really care about like getting a low return as long as they just like make it happen. And that's something that I can appreciate, because teams, especially last season, they were expecting so much for superstars because of the Rudy Gobert trade and what had happened with everything. I do believe that it's good to see a team which can just, ship their players out, and even if they're getting lowballed a little bit. Second, for Memphis, we have Marcus Smart, and I love this move. I think it's awesome. Memphis didn't really have any defensive guards that were not Desmond Bane, but let's face it, Desmond Bane only guards shooting guards, and he's really more of just a shooter who plays. He's more of just a 3-and-D player for Memphis. I think Marcus Smart adds a toughness to Memphis, adds a real veteran to Memphis, and adds a guy who can take all that energy which they have, all that doubt, all that, loss, and all that, lack of confidence which they have right now because Ja got suspended, Jaren Jackson Jr. Underperformed, Dylan Brooks is not on the team. They can take all of that and run it through Marcus Smart and take all that negative energy and turn it into a positive, mature mentality which Marcus Smart brings. I believe he's the best vet. We've been saying this for a while with Memphis, but they needed a guy who could just shut up players, who could talk his talk, and who had actually done something for his career. Right, like Marcus Smart has been to, I think it's 4 or 5 conference finals and been to the finals and took in the Warriors to 6, so he actually has skin in the game to talk from. And in my opinion, that's just very respectable, and it's exactly what Memphis needed, especially when Ja and all of these guys have been behaving like they have. Finally, I want to talk about the elephant in the room, which is Kristaps Porzingis is a Celtic, and in my opinion, that interests me because Kristaps is very good, and obviously now the Celtics are going to make Malcolm Brogdon their star point guard, right? With Jaylen Brown at the 2, Tatum at the 3, KP at the center. But I want to see how is this team being run, right? What is going to happen to Robert Williams? Is he going to become a bench 6-man? Is Derek White going to lose his starting position, which I think he is? And how are the Celtics going to work this out? In my opinion, I like this move. They needed a guy who could protect the paint and who could consistently be there, right? Let's face it, Robert Williams, after the injuries, he hasn't been the same, and they've had to limit his minutes. And Kristaps Porzingis for the Celtics adds a dynamic which has never been there before. He's a phenomenal floor spacer from 3 as a center, right? He's extremely tall, and even if he does not have the strength to guard the best big men in the league, they have Robert Williams and Al Horford, which could definitely take care of that. So now with Kristaps, they have more options and a lot more ways to run their team. I believe that honestly, a lot of people are talking about getting Boston guards, and getting them new wings and stuff like that. But in my opinion, getting them a big man was actually a really good move. It helps with team spacing, chemistry. Kristaps is not a greedy guy, and he's not a guy who looks for a lot of problems. And it's going to help in terms of that now we could really see what the Celtics are about. Was the problem Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, or is the problem the coaching, or is the problem that they didn't have enough talent? Next season, we're going to be able to see that. They have 3 guys now who are either All-NBA caliber or All-Star caliber, right? They have a big 3. They have good depth around them, and they've managed a way to do all this, meanwhile earning 2 first-round picks, right? Like one this year, the 25th pick this year, and the 2024 first-round pick from the Grizzlies. In my opinion, this has been an absolute steal for them, and they really played this trade perfectly. I just want to see how the fit of Kristaps Porzingis affects the Celtics, and will it bring them a championship.